Oh man, this soundtrack invokes such emotion. In another interview, Yoko Taro said the first request character designer DK was given for Kaine was something to cover her half-shade body that is weak to sunlight and feminine. DK interpreted this to mean covering one arm, one leg, and drew several women in lingerie. While surprised by the result, Yoko liked the striking imagery created and pushed through other developers' hesitations to make it a target for finalization. Yoko Taro had a throbbing erection for a white-haired girl in lingerie. I mean, why else is to be dressed in such a way? What tactical advantage does she have wearing a French maid outfit? Let's be real here. And if you're going to say, oh, because, you know, whatever the f***, I'm like, well, why don't they just have battle bodysuits then? Don't bullshit me, Yoko Taro. Kaine faced so much unfair treatment due to an error when her replicant body was created. She was originally a young woman from a wealthy family and had a fiancé. An error? Does that mean that her shade counterpart, like the OG Kaine, wasn't intersex? Because I'm curious. Because that's an interesting... Yeah, the error caused it to be intersex. So what, on the assembly line they... Wait, but aren't replicants like... They're not robotic, they're organic. They're a manufactured organic organism. Which I guess would kind of just be grown in a test tube or something. I don't know what the process is, but... The error caused it to be intersex. She originally wasn't. Oh! Shit. Who was her fiance? Well, you know, rich girl and a fiance. Surprise, surprise. Rich people marrying their kids off to other rich people. I'm not gonna go on that tangent. Devil and Purple are in charge of recycling them into new bodies. So Devil and Purple have fucked it up or what? You guys remember that conversation we had in Invincible in the university? And it was like, there was the girl that was at a university that I spoke to. And her entire reason for being there was to find a rich husband. And I was kind of like, but what do you want? And it's like, oh, I don't know. But, you know, my dad said I basically have to do this. And I'm like, okay, but what are your hopes? What are your dreams? What's your aspiration? What do you want out of life? What's gonna make you happy? What's gonna let you be on your deathbed with zero regrets? Due to how long the replicant system was running, an error occurred in the process. Jesus. And oh my god, the error is a penis! I was like, god damn it. Devila, Purpula, one job. One job. This is why you shouldn't be drinking on the job. Meow. God damn it, Devila. Meow. Also remember that the side quest in Facade where the girlfriend we thought died came back alive? The implication of that was the Devil and Purple recreated her, but she didn't remember anything, like her relationship with her boyfriend. Oh! I thought she just ran away and he thought she died. Damn. The Little Mermaid. Oh! NieR and company investigate a shipwreck near seafront. Am I the only one that got that shiver? Oh boy. Ugh. This is a tragic story. You see the Black Book, you see Grimoire Noir, you see NieR, you see Yona, and then 2,000 years later. It is a tragic story. We just see us as the good guys. We also killed the Shade to retrieve the red bag. Oh, wow. We see ourselves as the good guys because it's our point of view. Had we played as OG Nier with Grimoire Noir, Grimoire Vice and Nier would be the bad guys. It's kind of like what The Last of Us 2 tried to go for, but they f***ed it up gloriously. Like, you tried to be clever, but like you did it badly because you made me kill a dog. You should have known the moment you made me kill a dog that peace was never an option. You don't make me kill a dog and then listen to it dying and gasping and crying and then expect me to feel something afterwards. I don't think you quite understand how that works. Poor dog. To the dog in The Last of Us 2. Whose name I forgot. The Little Mermaid. A brilliantly colored light that burns a fruitless flower. Did its despaired screams reach God? Chapter 1. Morning dew enshrouded the coast. A postman walked at a sedate pace. His breaths were colored white. Every now and then he'd stopped and readjust the strap on his huge backpack with an My, this is just going to worsen my leg injury, A huge shadow loomed over him. He thought that it was a mountain at first, but when he squinted his eyes, he realized that something huge was draped across the coastline. The moment he saw the black shadow, his body spun to alert in fear of shades. The postman's reaction was understandable. Recently, people kept disappearing from the city, and rumors say that it was caused by a shade. The postman squinted his eyes. The black shadow did not move, and there aren't any shades this big in the first place. That's where you're wrong. When he closed in, he saw a huge ship. The mast was broken and the boat itself fared no better. Perhaps it was destroyed by a storm. The presence of few cannons confirmed its identity as a military ship. I can't believe that such a huge boat could crash into the reefs. The black and huge shadow made sinister creaking sounds. It's not a shade, but this is pretty scary in itself. At that moment, he felt he saw something moving inside the ship. The postman froze. Finally a shade, huh? Following the instructions taught to him by his friend, the postman slowly backed away. Don't run, don't show your back, don't avert your eyes. The effectiveness of the method was questionable, but that's how he was taught to deal with a shade. His right foot still hurt, so it's impossible for him to run anyways. When he backed away 3 steps, he heard a strange sound, almost like a cough. The postman stopped. He heard the sound again, and this time it was clearly a cough. A child's cough. It only took him 15 seconds to make up his mind. 60 seconds to start walking, his heart was set within that amount of time. There was no way he could leave a child alone. I respect that. I respect that. I respect that. That I respect. To the dog that looked for medicine for its owner, the owner who died looking for the dog, and the dog died fighting the medicine. Man's best friend. To the end. Why am I drinking out of this when I brought a cup? And to the man that sued Red Bull for not giving him wings. And won. God bless the American judicial system. It's not like they have anything better to do. The ship must have witnessed quite a ferocious storm, as evidenced by its torn insides. A huge hole opened on the left side that was filled with sand. I can get in like this, he stepped in cautiously. It was dark inside the ship, however sunlight filtered through the cracks here and there, and brightened the room enough for him to navigate. Seawater was still dripping through the ceiling, so he carefully walked across the wet floor. The passageways were filled with the stench of the sea. He heard another cough. He made his way towards its source. He walked through the corridor, opened the door, and looked left and right in search of the voice's owner in the messy rooms. He was in a room deep within the bowels of the ship. He heard a cough from within. The postman peeked inside. A cough. What he saw were fragile limbs that seemed like they could break at any moment. Pitiful rags, two black eyes that peered fearfully at the postman. A young girl was there. We couldn't get any proper information. Weiss complained from his place on the table. NieR continued eating his fish, showing no signs of whether he heard Weiss or not. Weiss is the kind of being that talks whenever he likes, paying no heed to whether his input is needed or not. Wow, he sounds like me. Since he has nothing else to do during lunchtime, he talks even more than usual. NieR was used to it, and got into the habit of sidestepping Weiss's inquiries every now and then while eating. Are you listening to me? Ah. How long are you planning to stay here? I wonder. How are you going to find the shade? I'll start thinking. It's been 3 days since they heard of the continuous disappearances of Seafront's townsfolk. They investigated the incident on the boughs of Shade Invasion, but couldn't find any useful hints. At the end of the day, all they had was some nonsense like they were attacked by a mermaid. If that's all there is, they were going to abandon this incident altogether. But the fact is, people were disappearing, and they couldn't leave this incident alone. Giving short replies to Weiss's complaints now and then, NieR ordered 2 more bowls of noodles from the barmaster. You're still going to eat? It's Wakane and Emil outside, he said, and Weiss shut up. Aww. Emil doesn't even need to eat. But he gets him one. And he gets one for Kane too. Jesus Christ. I could see why she fell for this kid. Sweet motherfucker. And this was after the time skip too. When he's, not a boy anymore. Aww. That is so fucking cute. So cute. I have to interject really quickly. I found some NieR artwork on Twitter, and I reached out to the girl that does it, and it's really nice. And I asked her if I could use it for our LP, and this is going to be one of the thumbnails for our LP. Look at it. So good. She has a lot of artwork like this, but I really like this one because it's got the lunar tear. I wanted to make this the thumbnail for like ending C or D, where you basically have to make the choice. It's so good. You can give her a quick follow. Her name is Emi-san. It's fucking phenomenal. And all her artwork is this level of quality. And it's all, you could clearly see that she ships these two, because all of her artwork is them basically cuddling. And I'm like, I reached out to her and I was like, look, I really like the artwork. It's got a lot of raw emotion and I can see you're a shipper. I'd really appreciate it if I can use one of them for a thumbnail because it's really good. And she's like, fuck yeah. You can tell. I think this is one of them too. Was it? Yeah, this is another one of hers. Like, her artwork is all like this. It's really good. It's really good. Like, fucking phenomenal. Was this her as well? No, it wasn't. This was someone else. Someone else did these. There's really a lot of good artists out there. It's just fucking phenomenal. Phenomenal, man. Alright, back to it. Maybe it's due to the proximity of the sea, but the food provided in the bar was very good. After going through the hardships of Yona's cooking... Hey! You fucking eat that cooking and you say it's delicious. And he didn't care for the particularities of food as long as they were edible, but he always looked forward to eating in this town. Whenever he ate anything delicious, he'd think of Yona. I want to let Yona eat this. I want to make her smile. Nier's expression darkened. I have that feeling when Hutchin was overseas, and every time I ate something, I was like, Hutchin would like this. Hutchin would like that. And then I literally had a list of places I had to take Hutchin when she came back, and I just took her food hopping to all these places. Like Hutchin's expression when she gets something delicious, she just pops. Her cheeks just become rosy and she pops. It's just adorable. You just want to keep feeding her and make her fat so she can't run away. I keep Hutchin clinically obese so she can't fit through the door. Oh man. Wai started throwing complaints at him again. He continued to talk to Nier out of some self-imposed sense of duty. That took a weird turn. Indeed it did. It's not love, it's possession. And obsession. Chapter 3. The furthest door in the corridor of the boat. You there? The postman opened the door, disturbed the flow of salty and wet air. There was one nearly broken table in the room. A girl slowly crawled out beneath the table. The postman pulled out a piece of bread from his bag, but stopped himself at the last moment. If he gives the bread over, he wouldn't be able to eat anything today. However, if he didn't, then the girl would be the one to suffer hunger. Aww. It's not even worth considering. He placed the bread on the table and mentioned for the girl to eat it. He doesn't know the reason behind the girl's inability to talk. The girl merely tilted her head whenever he attempted conversation. And it was only 2 days after their meeting he was able to communicate through hand signs and body language. The girl looked between the bread and the postman for a moment, but immediately began wolfing down the bread. After finishing her bread in a short time, she looked at the postman again. Sorry, but the city isn't faring too well in the food department either, so I couldn't bring as much as I wanted. The postman smiled sheepishly while scratching his head. The girl merely stared at him and didn't even nod. No matter how much he taught her, the girl couldn't speak. How on earth did she manage to survive all this time? The girl lifted her nose and sniffed. She seemed to have caught onto some scent and stared at the postman's pocket. He took out some breadcrumbs from his pocket and showed them to the girl. These are just old breadcrumbs. I was thinking of feeding them to seagulls. The girl bit into the breadcrumbs. She chewed in her hurry to eat, but the postman did not stop her. He laughed while patting her back. Wow, she sounds like a hungry animal. And the words they used, she wolfed it down. He sheepishly smiled. No one's gonna take it, so don't rut. Ouch. The girl tried to eat the postman's fingers along with the breadcrumbs. Oh god! Oh my god! The blood dripping from his wound, the postman caught the girl's eyes. Haha, you're quite the impatient one. Oh god! He doesn't realize how fucking close he came to being devoured. Jesus Christ! My god! She just starts... He's like, you're hungry, aren't you? He's like, holy shit! At what point do you tell the girl, yo? Jesus! Oh my god! You're quite the impatient one, huh? The postman forced himself to smile. The girl merely stared at the dripping blood expressionless. Ah, man, yeah. This child is strange. Forgetting to even wipe the blood off his fingers, the postman stared at the mysterious girl. The next day. Wow, okay. The girl was sitting on top of the table when he visited her room. The postman took out a white ribbon from his pocket and showed her. The girl reacted and held out her hand. She seemed to be used to this by now. Give me the food. She's not a girl. She's a domesticated wild animal that you've been feeding. She's like, food. Give me food and you can head pat me. It's like, god damn it. This is every otaku's dream. Except she's not like a cat girl. She's like an octopus girl. Okay, that sounds creepy. She's a little mermaid. It's like, little mermaids don't have tentacles, damn it. And some artist out there would loot the poor girl. It's a ribbon. Girls used to tie their hair. Here, I'll tie it for you. As the postman touched her hair, her body stiffened for a moment before relaxing. What's wrong? Your hair's all wet. Did you go out? The girl did not respond. I guess I can't help it. Here. The fuck you been watching lately? The usual? I watched The Naked Director with Hutchin. Highly recommended. I was kind of disappointed by the performance of the Yakuza in that show. They don't know how to fight for shit in that show. The postman dried the girl's hair with his own handkerchief that smelled faintly of him. At the same time, the girl played with the white ribbon aimlessly. He saw a spot of light on her hair. He could see the last lights of the day from the thin cracks in the room. The postman squinted his eyes. The sun at this time of day is my favorite. It feels very gentle. Do not say the word gentle! I've played Ultra Despair Girls. Gentle is a bad word. He heard a swooshing sound behind him and felt the air move. When he turned around, the girl disappeared. Where is she? One look at the table gave him the answer. The girl was sitting beneath the table, shaking. What's wrong? Are you afraid of something? The girl pointed at the golden sunlight that filtered in. I see, you've lived in dark places for so long. Your eyes have become weakened to the light. That said, she couldn't live like that forever. I'll bring this child outside with me Sunday. Then I can give her a healthier lifestyle. The gentle sun dusk moved slowly. This is so sad. This is sad because we know how it ends. Now that you've mentioned it, it started around the same time as the arrival of that ship. The female owner of the materials shop said while moving her ponderous girth. Does she also have a penis? A few weeks ago, an ancient but big ship floated onto the coastline. It looked like it suffered through a heavy storm and no survivors were found. No, that wasn't entirely correct. Nobody was on the ship when the town dwellers discovered it. I've seen the postman dally around there recently, so you should go ask him. NieR bought some natural gum as a show of thanks and left the shop. Weiss floated along and talked to NieR. The postman, Brings up memories of the old woman now that I think about it. When Weiss began talking, NieR noticed something. Kane! Kane motioned for him to come over inside the alleyway. She doesn't go into inhabited towns due to her self-awareness of shade possession. Discrimination hurts people, both the ones on the receiving end and the ones dishing out the damage. Wow, that is very real. Therefore, there can be only two reasons for Kane to step into the town. Either something terribly good has happened, or something horrendously bad. Feeling a sense of wrongness, NieR headed towards Kane. The sense of wrongness only worsened when Kane began, "There was this coastline with a broken ship." Clouds covered the sky and the air foretold of the coming storms. Damn it, Virgil. Chapter 5. The wind raged. The huge ship continued creaking and planted seeds of anxiety within all that observed. The girl and the postman were at their usual room. She was clinging to the postman's clothes. Haha, so there are things even you fear. The postman took out some food, but the girl shook her head. What's wrong? Aren't you hungry? The girl nodded. The deep voice of the ocean's rage could be heard afar. The girl was shaking. Okay. The postman stood up abruptly and began singing while stamping his feet. He was off tone, but the simplistic nature of the song seeped through. The girl stiffened her body. Haha, my bad. This is called a song. You make sounds from the bottom of your belly so you'll feel better. Songs are wisdom that carry us through hardships of life. That's why I like singing. I'm pretty bad, but... The postman's song continued. Eventually, the girl tried to mimic him and sang. Her song doesn't sound like one. It didn't even sound like a voice. It was a horrible sound like the squishing of paper bags. However, the postman was overjoyed and clapped his hands. You're good, you're good. The girl saw the happiness that overtook the postman and continued singing her terrible song, embarrassed. The girl's song resounded throughout the broken ship. A beam of light shone into the ship. The girl stopped singing. It's fine, that's not lightning. It's just the beacon from the lighthouse. An acquaintance of mine lived there before. She's already dead. I'd often pass by her house when I delivered letters. To tell you the truth, it was an exhausting job, but now it just feels nostalgic. The girl did not comprehend the postman's words. He merely patted her head. I always loved loneliness. I'm satisfied with just delivering these letters every day, written by people who felt deeply about the recipient. But recently, I was thinking that I'd like to become a person who felt deeply enough about someone to write a letter for them. Won't you come to my place? I'd like to have a daughter, actually. The postman pulled her hand, but the girl shook herself free from his grasp. She shook her head and pointed at the cabin floor. The girl began singing in a croaking voice again. You like being here, huh? It's a pity, but I guess I can't. The postman looked at the floor she was pointing at. Something was off. He couldn't see well within the darkness, but some sort of liquid was floating. He touched it lightly. It was slippery. The beacon from the lighthouse shone into the room, and he saw his blood-stained hand under the light. The postman looked at the girl. Only the broken songs of joy resounded throughout the room. He meant well, but Jesus, dude, you were so lucky. He was so lucky he gave her bread. That's all I'm saying. And didn't panic. He is so lucky. It's like that case of, you know, remember that blind guy that encountered Majin Buu? And Majin Buu was like, aren't you scared of me? And he's like, no. And he's like, aren't I frightening? No, because I cannot see. He's like, you cannot see? Well, let me fix that. And he gives him sight. And he's like, are you scared of me now? And he's like, no, but I can't see you. You're a great person, Boo. And he actually hugs him. And Boo's like, what the fuck? And then Boo just goes on a tangent and starts doing nice things because one random kid was nice to him. That's this guy. He lucked out big time. It was difficult to see the whole of the ship even from a hill. It was just that big. The black ship tilted against the reefs, and its side had a big hole. Anything that stuck up the masts were mostly broken. It must have been a heavy storm. Is that the ship? NieR asked Kaine. They came here because Kaine said there might be a shade in the ship. As a person possessed by a shade, she could tell the presence of shades nearby. She even understood their words, but she kept this a secret from NieR and others, Kaine answered. Yeah, but it's not that clear cut. The sensation of the left half of her body told her that something was in the broken boat. However, it felt completely different from the usual shades. She never felt like this before. Seeing her confusion, Weiss joked. So the hussy's only strength is worth nothing here. Weiss, Emil scolded Weiss. The normal Kaine would probably reply with something like, damn paper or shit book, but she kept her silence. Everyone felt the anxiousness permeating the air. Something is going to go wrong. NieR drew his sword. We must have to go and see for ourselves. Everyone knows when Kaine doesn't retort, something is about to happen. Massive hole, huh? Damn it! A dark room. A bloody floor. That person isn't here anymore, so it's okay. The girl shook in the corner of the room. A huge black claw grew out beyond her wrist. Why did it come to this? Did that person leave? Hachan, what brings you here? Food! You're a good little yummy yum. She cooked yakisoba! It's udon! You're awesome! Aww. Such a cute girl cooking me food. She keeps me fat so I can't run away. Hachan, you're making me fat! Did that person leave? Because of this blackened body? A body has been discovered! I want to talk normally with him. I don't want to be hated by him. I don't want to be feared by... Oh god, oh my... Oh! Sorry, I have to start reading that again. The girl shook in the corner of the room. A huge black claw grew out beyond her wrist. Why did it come to this? Did that person leave? Because of this blackened body? I want to talk normally with him. I don't want to be hated by him. I don't want to be feared by him. Thinking of the postman, she tried to stop herself from transforming into a shade. I have to. Use more power. If that person saw me like this, I want to keep my human form. The power to bathe in sunlight. The power to produce beautiful sounds. Pale streaks of water flowed from her eyes. With her strong will, she managed to revert her black arm to a human's. If I eat more humans. Her lips shook. If I do that, I'll become human. She said in a voice that cannot be heard by humans. A voice like scraping metals. The voice of a shade. That chill, man. Oof. Such a dangerous conclusion. Such an innocent yet dangerous conclusion. I mean, had she not believed that... I mean, I don't even know if eating humans helps, to be honest. But had she not believed that and didn't hurt anybody, I mean, you know? Calm down, Simone, that's not the answer. Damn you, Paul! Why must you ruin every world you're in? We need a blender to your face. Wow. Chapter 8. Her throat felt uncomfortably dry. Her hands weren't even sweating despite their tight hold on her swords. The further she walked into the boat, the colder it got. Are you okay? NieR called out to Kane. Noticeably worried at her pale face. She lifted the corners of her mouth and answered, not really, but nothing's going to be resolved even if I tell you. The problem lies ahead. We're closing in on something bad, aren't we, Kane? Tyran spoke up in an unpleasant tone. He's always like that. Not at all obliged to help us. He's fine with just watching anyone suffer. However, even Tyran felt that something was wrong. He sounded completely different from his usual self. Kane focused on the shade half of her body. She began to see the truth behind the coldness she felt. Its soundless vibration that resonated with her shade part. Nobody but Kane could understand the feeling brought on by that resonation. If she had to put it into words, it would be fear. Kane frowned. Me? Scared? She couldn't come to terms with that, and merely proceeded further into the boat with NieR and the others. The furthest part of the boat, NieR stopped with the darkness. The room beyond here is the last one. Kane tried to say something. Don't. Before the words could even be formed, they died in her throat. The room had a simple design. A table and a chair were all there was. Nothing resembling a window was spotted. This was probably the captain's room. Maps and shelves of books were lined up neatly, and a small girl stood beside the table. Black hair, pale skin, dirty clothes, red eyes. Oh man, When's the last time you saw a red-eyed little girl? Kane understood everything immediately. The truth behind this coldness. This one here is pretty dangerous. Even Tyran spoke in a fearful tone. That's right. The girl was a shade, but not a normal one. I mean, sounds like my daughter if I ever had one, to be honest. She was significantly more concentrated. She existed with a concentration a few hundred times beyond the normal shade. Even Kane can sense her power level. A single shade has the size of several humans put together, but that's its extent. To attain greater size, fusion of numerous shades is required. By fusing, shades grow both in power and size. The shade that attacked NieR's village and the fucker that killed her grandmother belonged to that category. A fused shade contained the melded consciousnesses of many shades, and the bigger they got, the more powerful they are. Kane gained this piece of information from her battle experiences. But the girl in front of her is different. She was a dozen times stronger than that fucker. Kane could tell from the coldness within her that let out an agonizing scream. Despite all that, she's so small. Kane knew that what her size meant. The girl was keeping her expanding body in check by applying the same amount of force in the opposite direction. In other words, the strength she felt now is but a tiny fraction of the girl's power. So she's a few dozen times stronger than Hook, and this is a tiny fraction of her power. I would just be like, back away, not today, Disco Kuma. The vibration she felt was a result of the girl's power that threatened to overflow them even now. All she felt were the shade's energies that seeped through. She shuddered at the thought of a complete reverse of those energies. Tyran spoke up with a shaking voice. Even this pressure we feel now is as simple as breathing for that one. Shit's about to get real, huh? Even I'm just going like, you sure this is a good idea? Maybe we should, like, come back another time. There's another thing she learned about shades. The more shades involved in fusing, the more reasoning the finishing product loses. Just like how fused shades in the Airy became nothing but a giant piece of magic blasting thing, a fused shade gets more and more stupid as they fuse with more and more shades. The whole business isn't as clear-cut as the more you fuse, the stronger you get, as some fused shades with a lesser amount of shades are stronger. Worst case scenario, this small shade wasn't fused and only had one consciousness. In other words, this one is dangerous enough to attain this level of strength without fusing at all. The air was freezing with danger. The girl didn't even blink. NieR and Emil did not move. Didn't know what to do. It was like standing next to a piece of explosive that goes off at the slightest moment. A nitroglycerin! You making bathtub? Huh? What are you guys doing here? A voice came from the direction of the entrance, and it's just like... What are you doing here? What? A voice came from the direction of the entrance. The postman stood there. Man, you should have just told me if you're coming here. I have something to discuss with you guys anyway. The man spoke in a light tone while pacing his bag on the floor. When he came close to Kanye, he said, "Excuse me, but I sort of want to know about the lunar thing or whatever." It all sounded like nonsense. Kanye moved her dry lips. She had to tell them. She couldn't make a sound, but she turned towards NieR and Emil and mouthed, "This one is a shade." Oh my god, there was so much in this scene. To us it was like, "Hello, little girl." Meanwhile, the novelization. Holy shit! That spiritual pressure. It's like a Vasto Lorde in one form. It's like an espada. It's like Little Nell. The girl suddenly moved. She stared at Kane. an ominous vibrating sound could be heard. The moment that the postman turned back to look at his bag, the girl exploded in a shower of black. A number of black lances emerged from the girl's body. At the same time, NieR, who was right next to the girl, immediately brought his guard up. An onslaught of lances pierced the ceiling and the floor. Kane and Emil grabbed the postman and made toward the exit. Behind them, NieR was thrown back. He made towards them and shouted at them to run. The Shade's thoughts flowed into Kane's head. Why am I a Shade? Please, someone tell me. Why am I not human? Why are you taking that person away from me? Don't let your guard down. Tiran's voice lacked its usual playful tone. Just as they emerged from the corridor, a huge onslaught of the Shade's lances assaulted from the walls, the ceiling, and the floor. They grew from the girl and made to chase after the escapees. NieR ran ahead while cutting down the lances, but couldn't deal with all of them. Kane moved on to support him and handed over the postman to Emil. Emil picked up the unconscious postman with his mouth dashed. What? Emil picked up the unconscious postman with his mouth dashed. What does that even mean? The exit's here. The moment that NieR shouted at the side of the sunlit exit, a number of black lances blocked it. Kane jumped over Emil and delivered a flying kick toward the exit, breaking through the Shade's blockade. Kane somersaulted out of the boat, but the exit was blocked again before Emil could come out. NieR was close behind. Emil! Swatting the black lances to the side, NieR tried to protect Emil, but a number of Shade hands attacked them from above. The impact of their attacks caused the postman to fall from Emil's mouth. Wait, Emil was carrying him in his mouth? But Emil's mouth isn't that big. How did he... did he grab onto his nape or something? What? Emil is like a mother cat. Ah, Mr. Postman. NieR and Emil were blasted out of the boat. They rolled over a few dozen times in the sand. Kane turned around. Yeah, he was holding him in his mouth. I don't know how or where. Emil's not that big. His mouth's that big. Where did he hold him? How? How could that support all the weight? I don't know. Was he holding the clothes? Did the clothes not rip? I don't know. Black lances broke out of the boat in different places. They seemed like they'd continue to extend, but they wrapped around themselves like a huge snake instead. Another few dozen of snakes emerged from the boat. The fog cleared outside the boat. The sun was shining so brightly that NieR and the others had to squint their eyes. It's bright enough that any normal Shade would die immediately. However, paying no heed to that fact, the black snake exposed itself to the sunlight. Its surface was burnt off by direct sunlight, but new cells were created at a much higher speed. It doesn't die under direct sunlight. Emil despaired. Eventually, an egg-like shape formed amidst the thrashing snakes. The egg, nurtured by the surrounding snakes, grew bigger and bigger. Its surface cracked and began to peel off like fruits. The peels formed two huge wings, and within the wings, the upper half of the girl's body grew on the inside of the egg. Her blackened body was shaking, and seemed to have grown straight from the deck. However, just her upper body was well over 10 meters. More wings grew from the upper body. Kane knew that they were merely extras. The huge amounts of magic left over found no practical use and merely gave unnecessary wings to the Shade. The wingspan was almost 100 meters long. What? Woof. 100 meters long. Oh, just extra energy that's unused. I see what Deviler and Popola meant regarding using her if the Shadow Lord didn't do the thing. Because they could just tell her, oh, we'll make you human or some shit. It was already a few times the length of the entire boat, yet it continued to expand while smoke came out of the Shade's body. The Shade figured that bathed under the sun had a surreal beauty to it. The postman lay across her palm. The giant shade that carried him carefully let out a roar. Oh, she caught him. Kane and her companion had to cover their ears from the sound impact. The resulting vibration made them see double. When the impact had resided, its sound created one set of music scales. It was the song taught to the girl by the postman. We should not have been able to defeat her in the game under normal circumstances. Hit her until she dies. It is my Slav way. Slavuto! The ramen shop is a burek shop. Where Naruto eats burek and yogurt every morning. The fucking Hidden Leaf village is a Slavic village. That's why everyone keeps killing each other. Itachi was a Slav having a bad day, so he slaughtered all his family. The Slav version of Naruto would be hilarious. Why are we always at war with neighboring villages? Because this is the Balkans. It's Serbia, Bosnia, Croatia, Bulgaria, Macedonia, Russia. I could make an anime about this. I could just steal the story of Naruto and rename the characters. And no one would be able to tell the difference. It would be glorious. It would be amazing. I mean, bloody Tsunade would just be a beautiful Slav woman. I would just describe her as General Armstrong from Full Metal Alchemist. No one would tell the difference. Her long, beautiful hair. You know, they're like, this isn't Tsunade. It's not a copy and paste. You just make her hair longer. Tremendously glorious. It would be amazing. Oh, okay, let's continue before this gets bad. Jiraiya Sensei would just be that war criminal uncle that had to flee the village to flee from NATO. That's why he lives in the forest. He doesn't want to be found by NATO. But because he's killed so many people, they want to make him Hokage. 3 times they gave him the offer. But it's not Hokage, it's Warlord. Yeah, this would be a fucking good story, wouldn't it? It'd be a fucking amazing story. Oh, thank you, MNAF. Thanks for liking my memes on Twitter. I like your memes, man. I like memes. You know what? I should do that as a joke. Make like a video called Slav Naruto. We'll take like a chapter or something and just make it into Slav Naruto. I think that would be really funny. We make anime Slav. If anime was Slav. Imagine Slav Full Metal Alchemist. The Ishvalans would just do a Tsukarashbi. The Führer's like, what the fuck? Scar would be Stalin. That's why he uses his hands. Hands of iron, man of steel. You've seen Naruto. I thought you haven't based on... I've seen the OG Naruto and I've stopped Shippuden before the 4th war. So I know heaps about Naruto. I just haven't finished it. Like, I know plenty about the story. Man, when you really think about it, even Sakura would be Slav because she just beats people with her hands. It would be good. Slav Naruto. It's going to be a thing. Alright, back to it. The girl's expanding consciousness was in turmoil with anger, fear of not knowing what was to become of her, and hatred towards the humans that tried to make the postman away from her flowed from her heart. No matter how much I eat humans, I wasn't satisfied. No one ever helped me. Only this person was nice to me. He taught me what gentleness was. I will become human. I'll speak the same words as this person. I'll live with him, just a bit more. She covered the postman with both hands, taking great care not to injure him. Just a bit more, she'd gain the power to become human. No idea what's going on in her head, but she really wants to eat us. Tyran shouted. Kane knew that he was merely putting on a facade. The postman regained his consciousness amongst the loud sounds and shaking. He didn't seem to know what was going on at first, but widened his eyes at fear when he saw the girl's enlarged face. The postman tried to scream, but the sound died in his throat. Don't be afraid, because I'll become human soon. The girl's smile was merciful, and she embraced the postman who was frozen with fear. Her arm transformed. Black letters appeared on her arm, and several spikes grew from it. The spikes shaped themselves into weapons and floated alongside the girl. A few claws grew from her back as well. Run! The moment that Kane shouted, the black spikes assaulted NieR. The girl threw the lances she made with her huge arms. Sand was blasted all over the place whenever the lances landed. NieR shouted while rolling to dodge. I never knew that they could throw their own bodies. This one isn't normal. The Shay had more and more magic left over. It's not going to hurt her at all to forge her body into weapons. Emil shouted at Kane while blocking the spikes with his magic field. I'll try to attack it. A few thin strands of light escaped from Emil's staff and aimed toward themselves at the shade. The next moment, balls of magic were hurled along the strands to the shade. They hit the shade with an explosion and blew off 2 of its wings. However, they immediately grew back. 3 of them. Hail Hydra! NieR shouted. How? Is it immortal? I'll finish it off here, you guys. Run! Kane took a huge jump and bombarded the shade with magic in the air. All her attacks were blocked by the shade's arm on its back, but Kane wasn't discouraged, and resumed her attack while charging her sword with magic. Weaving through the shade's counterattack, she closed in on the girl's main body. However, she wasn't headed towards the girl's chest area or head, but towards the hands enclosing the postman. This one's pretty important to you, huh? Kane swung her sword in a downward arc towards the postman's position. The girl, who remained expressionless until now, widened her eyes. Before Kane's sword could reach the postman, a number of shades blocked her assault. Sparks flew from the grasp between magic and shade energy. However, Kane suddenly changed the angle of her strike. Her sword reached towards the girl's head. Clever girl. All of the shade's defenses were protecting the postman, so it had no time to generate new arms before Kane struck true. The shade turned its face at the last moment and was spared from a direct hit, but Kane's sword still tore apart its face. Black blood gushed out of its heaps. A strange scream. The postman was thrown against the deck, the shade covering its face, and only when searching for the postman did it realize that NieR and Emil were preparing to launch Black Lance at its maximum potential. This ends here. Magic shot out with NieR's shout and Emil's roar. The huge amount of magic condensed into lance form assaulted the shade while spinning at high speeds. The shade tried to block them with its left arm, but the huge lance tore away its entire limb from its shoulder. The girl screamed. It's not dead? Movement was spotted in the shade's wound. It was like watching a few hundred snakes. A human. The girl looked up at the sky. I'll become human. An unbelievable amount of tentacles expanded from the shade's torn wound. The tentacles became a few hundred sharp swords and ripped apart the landscape. Kane was in close proximity, so no matter how hard she defended herself, the tentacles pierced her left arm and right leg. She fell through the floor. NieR was still cooling down from the huge amount of magic he exerted, and was attacked by the shade's swords. Emil knocked NieR away. Black shadows surrounded his left arm. Ah! Emil's scream was feral. His entire left arm was torn off. NieR tried to help Emil, but was blasted away by the sword's descending onslaught. Swinging around a fearful amount of swords, the shade continued screaming, I'll kill you. I'll kill you all. The shade, who used to be a girl, screamed while hugging her torn body. She shuddered with shallow breaths like that of an animal. She was strong, but even her regeneration could not catch up with the amount of damage she suffered. However, NieR and the others weren't faring so well either. No one could stand. The shade took one look at NieR and grabbed him with its black hand. Ah, NieR is... Emil looked at the sky while shaking. Kane was barely standing among the puddle of her own blood. Just when the shade was about to put NieR in its mouth. Stop! It was the postman who regained consciousness. He ran towards the shade with unsteady steps. The postman took a feeble piece of splinter as his weapon and faced off against the shade with squawky knees. You monster? You said to live together? Disappear, you man-eater. But you said to sing songs. Let go of that person. I'm trying to become human. To live with you. I hate you. The girl stopped. She looked at her body again. Black smoke emerged from where her appendages were cut off. She could probably recover from the damage she suffered. However, that proves that she's a shade. What is this ugly body? Didn't I want to become human? With a body like this, She looked at the postman. His eyes were shaking with anger and fear. Die! His words pierced her. The sound of her broken wings falling into the ocean was heard. She knew that she could no longer maintain this body. She couldn't even remember her life's meaning. She dropped NieR. Slowly, she lifted her head. The dust shone with golden sunlight. The very same one they promised to watch together. Ah, and the world is so beautiful. Kane jumped at her from behind. The girl didn't even try to struggle. It was a disgustingly raw sound. The girl's decapitated head fell slowly. Her huge body turned into black sand and lost its form. Even the black sands were blown along by the sea wind and disappeared. The broken ship, the dusk was reflected off the sea and gleamed like a jewel. Wow, so this is a third version of the death. The second floor of Seafront's bar housed a simple inn. The bed makes a pretty bad sound, but it's better than sleeping outside. Kane stood, dragging her hurting feet along. It's been 3 days. The postman forced Kane, NieR, and Emil to stay at the inn to thank them for saving the town. Normally they'd refuse, but the damages they suffered were severe, so they accepted his kindness. Emil was sleeping, but his destroyed left arm had regenerated until the wrist area. Okay, so he can regenerate. The mechanics behind it remained unknown, but he should regain his former arm in another day. NieR's injuries were light in comparison, so he was helping the postman along with the shitty book. It's about time for us to leave this place. She noticed the presence of a piece of paper between her breasts. Okay. It dropped from the broken shade's body and looked like a letter. Something was written in ugly letters resembling worms more than anything. She thought that it was for the postman, but he told her to take care of whatever the monster left behind. I didn't know that she was such a monster. Black letters appeared on the postman's foot. Kane opened the letter. Turan seemed very interested. What's this? A letter. Something the shade wrote for the postman. Haha, what ugly handwriting. It was probably trying to copy the pattern as best as it could. What's written on there? Kane did not answer and simply tore the letter into pieces. Bright sunlight filtered in through the window. The ocean scene from within seemed so peaceful, and the battle at the ship felt like an ancient long past. Broken pieces of the letter fell from Kane's hand. On one of the corners, the words "thank you" were written over and over again in ugly lettering. Oh my god, that chill. And the song ended at the perfect time. Oh! It almost feels like Fira. It's like, thank you for loving me. And it's like, oh God. Why am I getting angel beats? I had the damn voice in the back of my head, and I was like, I don't know where it's from. And so I grasped onto the memory of Fira, but then I remembered, holy shit, it's the scene from Angel Beats. It's the goddamn scene from Angel Beats at the back of my mind right now. Why, Yoko Taro? Is this why you like them white-haired girls, you son of a fucking bitch? Pain. Unbelievable pain. Little Mermaid #1, Slav Naruto. Spain, but without the S. The reason why there are so many characters who suffer in my games is that I want to show reality. How true that is. Yoko Taro, I have to wonder what happened to you, man. Because this is Yoko Taro's art imitating reality. What was Yoko Taro's reality? This is delicious, but it's getting cold. And so apologies if I'm eating a little bit, but it's so delicious. Bacon with udon. Damn it, Hutchon, how do you cook so well? Guys, do yourself a favor, get someone that can cook. God damn it, man. Fuck. Where does Yoko Taro get this shit from? Aren't you happy that the game gave us a new ending to this story? I know you said these stories won't work well as games, but I think they had the potential, like episode Mermaid. These stories work well because they're text. They work well because we're reading from the perspective of the girl after we've played the game. It lets our imagination imagine it. We've seen the ship, we've seen what she sort of looks like, so the text doesn't have to so much describe those things, but it lets us get into the mindset and the frame of the person. That's why it works. I don't think this would be as impactful if it was in the game. There's too much detail. The focus is on the thoughts and the interactions rather than the environment. In games and movies, they can show the environment, which is awesome visually. It can show music, it can make sounds. That's all well and good. But when it comes to dialogue and interaction, text is always superior. You can have amazing delivery from very talented and skilled actors. Do not get me wrong. And they can absolutely ace it. Like, what's his name? Charles Darwin or something from Game of Thrones that does Tywin is one example. Or Tyrion, Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones. They ace their dialogue, and don't get me wrong, it's absolutely beautiful. But when it comes to the inner workings of the character, like, no matter how much I eat humans, I won't be satisfied. No one ever helped me. Only this person was nice to me. He taught me what gentleness was. I will become human. I'll speak the words as this person. I'll live with him just a bit more. The weight of these words cannot be replicated. That's why it's so good being read. I think the way they did the audio drama, the grimoires, and the game is very well done. They chose the medium that would be most effective for that story. If we were reading extracts and like the news report during the chlorination thing, it wouldn't be effective because it doesn't have that atmosphere. Whereas while we were listening to it in the audio drama, it feels real. It really does feel real. It feels like we're listening to the radio, and the screams and the shouts and the background noise and the breaking and the gunshots and the panic and the hysteria. It makes the environment real. Same thing with this. We're imagining the inner workings. We're imagining the scenario. We're imagining the girl. We're imagining the fight. And reading these things hits us. I think it's the right medium. Even if we just saw the adaptation in game, I feel like they did a good job. They did a really good job, especially when they gave little by little in the multiple playthroughs. But this adds another layer to it. I think of this as layering. I'm good with these stories. The thing that I appreciate about Yoko Taro, and this is, I mean, I'm no judge of writers, but I noticed the multi-layering. You can watch it on the first layer, the first time you see it, which is the base interaction between the characters and the situation itself. And you can understand what's going on, or at the very least what the author wanted you to understand is going on. You can appreciate it for what it is, and you think, wow. Then there's the second layer with a little bit of context, the little bit of background context. Who is the girl? What is the ship? What is going on? You know, the second time you're watching it. And you get that additional layer of knowledge and exposition. And you understand a little more about the motivation and the frame that's going on in the scene. But it's the same thing. It's the same dialogue. Yeah, in the game they added a little more dialogue when we're able to understand what she's saying. But they did that so we're not overpowered with it. That's the second layer. And then you've got the third layer when you actually understand the full context. And you view it and you experience it the third time. And you actually understand what is going on. And then the gravity of the situation really hits you, because you understand the context and the frame of all the characters in the scene. That's the weight. It's very difficult to do that. It's even more difficult to do that in the very same scene. To multi-layer a scene without needing to change it. Yoko Taro does it by making us replay the scenario and giving us a little more. He leads us, and then he paints a different, it's almost like a canvas that's black and white. And now he's added the blue, the yellow, the green. We get more colors until eventually we see the whole painting. And then it's like, wow. You know? We get given little by little, and then we understand what's going on. It's skillful, it's clever, I like the style. And the red, lots of red, crimson. The next level above that, and by the way, I'm not criticizing, I like Yoko Taro's storytelling style. I like it. I like playing the multiple routes. I like his storytelling style. The only next level of this that I consider more powerful is when someone is able to, in the scene, put all of that context without needing to change the scene at all. You know, like when you're watching the Saw franchise or reading Game of Thrones or one of those Shakespeare things, and you can analyze the text 1,000 times and you'll always get something new. That's the next level above that. However, in those stories, they have the entire story to develop a character. So they can multi-layer a scene as much as they want because the development occurs outside of the scene. And then once you understand the development of the character and you rewatch it, you understand it a lot more. Whereas in this scenario, Yoko Taro has a scene or 2-3 scenes to fully develop the character. It's a lot more difficult. The Little Mermaid, Luis, only appears in a handful of scenes. He only has like 20-30 minutes maximum of the game in order to multi-layer this. So of course he can't do the same thing as, say, for example, Hideo Kojima can do in Metal Gear Solid 3. You know? Or Game of Thrones can do with their characters. Yoko Taro's only got this little span of time. That's why he has to do it this particular way. That's why I like it. He has this very constrained limit, but he makes it work. And he does it for different characters and for different villages and different everything. So when you really start piecing all these little stories together, the world is so complex and dense that it feels real. Because we as humans judge things at a glance. And that I mean, I'm not going to say at a fault to our own, but that is an instinctual survival instinct where we need to gauge immediately as to whether or not someone is a threat. It's what's kept us alive. But Yoko Taro understands this and he uses it to his advantage. He leads us on. We see the two brothers and we think like, oh yeah, two brothers. Oh, mum's out. Let's go save mum. But then when we get the context of the situation, we realize, holy fucking shit. Had he had the opportunity, he would have killed us. Maybe he sent us into the mountain to die so he could loot us. Fuck, 20 seconds ago, he was considering chopping off his arm and cooking it to feed his... There's so much happening. But the first time we meet the two boys, we're like, oh, they're just two boys. Oh yeah, their mum has gone to the mountain. We think we understand. Oh yeah, she's gone for 7 days. She's probably dead. And we think we understand more than they do. But no, we do not. We're making this assumption because we've lowered our guard because we see two kids. What we don't see is the trauma and the amount of shit that the elders had to go through to survive and the amount of shit that he's willing to go through to keep his brother alive. We don't see that raw survival instinct that we do after we play through the story and read the light novel or the grimoire. But at that point we can't because we're led down a different route. The same way that we're led with 2B, you know, and 9S, and A2, and all the other Yoha units. We're led to believe a certain thing because we assume on the spot, we think we're correct in our assumption, we've judged on the jump, and then confirmation bias. We're just confirming the bias that we believed at the beginning. Then once we realize the truth, everything is so black and white. And we think, why couldn't we see it all this time? That's the beauty of it. It's there. The drawing is there. The shapes are there. We just couldn't see the color. We had to see it step by step. We first had to see the black and white. Then we started seeing the different colors one at a time. And that's why he makes us play through it 2-3 times. He slowly adds a color so we can slowly realize. And then when we take a step back and we see all the colors, we go, wow, holy shit. That's the beauty. And that's what I really appreciate about this storytelling. It makes us realize just how blind we are. Do you think any of the stories should be quoted on quoted, required to know? Like the Magic Mountain impacts a lot on my views on Jacob, so I wondered if it would be better if everyone knew of the story. And this is coming from a business standpoint. If this was all in the game, a lot of people would skip through it. If this was required reading during the gameplay, I guarantee you, like a lot of the codec calls in MGS2, people would just like skip. Because too much. Yoko Taro probably knew this. So he kept the game concise. He kept it short, he kept it sweet, he kept it to the point. And he knew that, yes, this would make it more impactful. but it would also disengage a lot of the audience. So he created it as side content. The real shame is that this side content is not available to the Western audience. That's the real shame. But at the same time, that's kind of a critique on us, because Western audiences don't like to buy and consume side content. We very rarely listen to drama CDs, if at all, and even less so read. I myself am a perfect example of this. Whereas in Japan, side content, mangas, drama CDs are all the rage. Anime have drama CDs. Anime have side stories. How many anime viewers in the West go out of their way to consume this content? Very few. So that's kind of our societal thing as well. And Yoko Taro understood this. So he created the side content in the drama CDs and these stories as optional content. Some of it was included in NieR Automata in the, the node. And we had to read one story as, we had to read it. But then it had all these other stories that we could read as optional. So fans that were curious could easily access it and find it and enjoy it and enrich their experience. Whereas people that weren't so much into it, it didn't have to. It's a shame, but you can't really force people. If people don't want it, they'll reject it. It's like force feeding people red pills. They'll reject it. Unless they take it willingly, they won't digest it. That's why. I wish we got these written stories in the game like content we unlock through each playthrough. I completely agree. It would have been awesome if this unlocked after you finish, ending E or something. As like, you finish the game, here's post-game content. It would have been awesome. Absolutely awesome. Unfortunately, it didn't happen, and it could have been for a variety of reasons. It could have been timing, it could have been budgeting, it could have been just like that there was enough content already. It could be that in the OG release of NieR Replicant 1.22, they didn't need that for the original release, but they might do a, Grimoire Vice edition or something, where it's released as part of the game or something like that. So, and that's more of a business thing. A bit like, Year of Yorha edition and Director's Cut edition and things like that. It's very commonplace nowadays for games to get a re-release. Think Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. To re-release the game with all the extra content. And I sort of get it from a business standpoint. And I think it's a shame that we don't get this the first time. But I also understand that if you want to release something perfectly, you're never going to get it out. Sometimes you just gotta, what's the minimal viable product? The game, the stories, e-ending, tested, complete, glitch-free. Good, let's ship that. Let's do all the side content and possible DLCs and fan movies later. Let's get the core out. Let's hit the iron while it's hot. Let's throw the logs on the furnace. And then if it blows up, let's release it in 6 months or 12 months. Keep the fire going while we ramp up production for another game. Because the last thing you want is like a 3, 4, 5 year window in between games where there's absolutely nothing. You kind of want something to be there. And that's more of a business marketing decision, more so than like a game fan edition. And I can understand and appreciate that. So yeah, 100% agree with you. I would have loved this to be included. Do I think that it should be force-fed to people? No, because that wouldn't work. The more you force people to do something, the more they reject it. You got to have an open door policy. The door's got to be open for them to walk through, but you can't push them through it. Do I think they should sell this in the West? Yes. How do I think they can do it? Sell a Grimoire Nier book. Literally. A physical book with, the cover artwork nicely decorated. Price it appropriately, not too cheap, not too expensive. Something that the fans would like. Something that would look really cool on a shelf. And sell it. And, I don't know, on the side, maybe have an ebook version for the people that just want the story. Sell the ebook for like $5, $10, right? If you want the collector's physical edition, sell it for 30, sell it for 40, right? You're going to cover your cost of production easily. You'll cover the cost of manufacturing, and you'll make a healthy profit. Make money, but don't be greedy, sort of thing. Because fans will buy it. If you're not being greedy. Fans will buy it. I'd fucking buy it. If I could get Nier White Edition, I would have bought it. But I couldn't because I'm in Australia. And they didn't sell it here. It's one of those things. People would buy it. That's how I would do it. If they're willing to sell Nier Automata novels here, I think that Grimoire Nier isn't that far of a stretch. I haven't read any of the Automata novels, and I want to. I really want to. I think the West is still slowly warming up to this type of content. The West has only now begun to accept anime in the mainstream. They accepted things like Pokemon, Digimon, and Dragon Ball Z. But they didn't accept the rest. They saw it as kids' anime that kids could watch, but they never really accepted anime beyond that in the West. So it was okay for kids to watch it, same as cartoons, but anything adult was still shunned. And I'm a great example of that because I refused to not touch Nier Automata because to me it looked like a sex game. The cover looked like a sex game. I just saw a girl half dressed in the maid outfit. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to touch that. And they're like, oh, she's not a girl, she's an android. And I'm like, dude, you're just making it sound more like a porno. You're making it sound like a sex game disguised as a hack and slash. Like, you're not playing it for the story. You're playing it so you can look at the girl's ass for 20 minutes every day. That was my impression of the game. It got Game of the Year, and even then I was like, nope. Get me? It's only now slowly beginning to change in the eyes of the Western audience that anime games aren't all either for kids or porn. Only now are people starting to realize that it's another medium. It's animation, but it's not CGI. It's storytelling, but it's not a movie. It's Japanese style hack and slash, but it's not Devil May Cry, even though Devil May Cry is Japanese, but you know what I mean? They're only now starting to accept it. And they're rolling it out in terms of, it's Resident Evil, but it's an animated film. Oh, we'll watch the CGI, but we won't watch the animated version. Why not? Oh, because anime is for kids, but it's fucking Resident Evil. Get me? It's one of those things. It's a stigma. And unfortunately, it sometimes just takes time. You can't convince the old generation or the current, but you can convince the next one. And that, unfortunately, takes about 4 to 5 years per cycle. It's effectively like a school cycle. You won't convince the kids in year 11 and 12, but you'll be able to convince the kids in year 7 and 8, who will eventually become year 11 and 12. You got to do it like that. You got to do it at a grassroots. You know, and I don't want to quote Hitler here, but, you know, get the children, inherit the future. we're really deep down the rabbit hole now. And I regret absolutely nothing. And funnily enough, this all started because I watched the Danganronpa anime and I really liked it. I saw a teddy bear that looked like he was having a fun time with a big fucking smile. And he looked weird being half white, half black. And I was like, what the fuck is this shit about? And I watched an episode and it looked like an acid trip. And I was like, this is weird. And I watched another episode and then I binged the whole anime. And then I really liked it and I watched it again. I was like, fuck, I want more of this. And I looked it up and then I found out that it was a game. I was like, oh, okay. And then I somehow finally convinced myself to actually play a text anime game. Which up until that point, again, I did not want anything to do with, because in my eyes, it was just like virtual dating. An e-girl in a 2D format. Because you can't talk to real girls. That's what I viewed it as a couple of years ago. Not even like 4 years ago. That's what I thought of text-based anime 2D games. That there were dating simulators for people that couldn't actually talk to girls. That was the view I had of it. And it's still a stigma. Like, my friends still look at me and they're like, ugh. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. And they're like, no, you don't understand. I'm like, motherfucker, you play World of Warcraft. You played Warcraft 3. You know, some of the Warcraft cinematics are 2D drawn format. Oh, but that's cool. It's the same shit. It's just the storytelling medium. You're just... Because one's from Japan and one's from America, you're treating them differently. So, yeah, I'm a huge fan of it, but it's still a cult following. Yeah, NieR Automata broke out more than expected, got Game of the Year, and really trailblazed in the West. But that was unexpected. They never could have anticipated that type of response. I mean, yeah, Final Fantasy has sort of been accepted in the West, but you got to realize Final Fantasy still has a negative stigma in the West amongst the mainstream audience. It's still seen as childish. It's still seen as, oh yeah, they're playing Final Fantasy VII for Tifa's big virtual boobs. Yeah, there's still that. It's gonna take a few years for that to be washed out. What it's gonna take is a generation of kids in the 7th and 8th grade growing up playing both Japanese and Western titles and holding them to the same standard, hitting 18, 19 for it to be mainstream accepted. And it doesn't fucking help that we have games like Fortnite and Battlefield which are dumbing down the generations. I mean, we had COD and Battlefield, but we still had story games. They had stories in Call of Duty. We had Call of Duty, but we also played through the campaign. Nowadays, there is no campaign. It's all pew pew. So I'm worried because the younger generations are being dumbed down. They're incapable of paying attention to a 5-minute story. Their attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. Their comprehension is like fucked.
Vice, you dumbass! Start making sense, you rotten book, or you're gonna be sorry! Maybe I'll rip your pages out one by one, or maybe I'll put you in the goddamn furnace! How can someone with such a big smart brain get hypnotized like a little bitch, huh? Oh, Shadow Lord, I love you, Shadow Lord! Come over here and give Vice a big sloppy kiss, Shadow Lord! Now pull your head out of your goddamn ass and start fucking helping us!